It is November 15th, I think, 2012. I'm at the home of Paul Norbert Bauer, who was born April 18th, 1926, in Salina, Ohio. And we're at his home here in Sharonville, Ohio. So, okay, Mr. Bauer, thank you so much for agreeing to this interview. And just tell us a little bit about your life, your family life before the war. Where were you born? What did your dad do? What was your family like? And things like that.
Okay. I was the second of 6 children of my parents, and I had an older brother, Bob, who also went in the Navy. Mm-hmm. That's why I went in the Navy, because he was there. And we had 3 sisters and a brother, and my dad was a mechanic at a, a dealer. I can't think of the name of the, anyway, and he later became a supervisor of the first of a new type of sewage treatment plant that is now all over the country.
Huh.
Basically, I saw pictures in the New York Times of a plant that was being built in Brooklyn, and it was the same process. And this was the first plant. We had people come from overseas to see this plant operating, because it was the first plant of this.
In Salina?
Yeah, and basically that's what most sewage plants are. This style. And Dad had a graduate, he was a farm boy, and they all left school after the 6th grade, so they had to help on the farm, and that was his education. But when he got his number 1 license to operate any plant in Ohio, there were 3 other people, and 2 of them were graduate engineers that took the test, and he passed the test. And when he retired, he had about 8 other sewage plants that he visited to make sure that they were doing it right. Let's say,
wonderful.
That they were working, that it was working. And he was advising them on problems,
Sure.
So he was he was a aircraft mechanic in the First World War.
Oh, was he?
And he actually worked on Rickendacker's plane at one time in Orly Field at Paris. Yeah.
Is that right?
Next to Paris, yeah.
Was he drafted in World War I, or did he?
I don't know. I think he enlisted.
He enlisted in World War I. Wow, that's interesting. So you come from a line of veterans.
So.
Does any other memories of him in World War I? Did he talk to you about that at all anymore?
No, he spent most of his time, I think, at that airport there in Orly Field. It was the big airport of the Air Force.
So he was repairing biplanes and triplanes and all those things.
I had an uncle, my wife's brother, who was joined the Army when he was 16 years old. He lied about his age. And he was in the Rainbow Division, which was I think the 2nd Division that got over in France. And it was headed by MacArthur, the guy.
Is that right?
The guy who was...
in World War I? I didn't know that.
World War I.
Interesting.
And he spent... last year, I guess, in France. He was only 16 years old.
Pete. Wow.
And after the war, when MacArthur was head of the whole army, he would visit the my uncle stayed in the war until the Second World War. He was in the Second World War also. And MacArthur would visit a field, army, what do they call them? Where they were training.
Sure.
And when he would come to a particular field, he would tell the general in charge, I want to have dinner with every guy who was in the Rainbow Division, who's still in.
Wow.
So my uncle was in a number of guys, and he got to know MacArthur pretty well.
Oh, that's neat.
And
that's a great story.
He had some real stories to tell.
That's neat. Well, and Mr. Bauer, tell us a little bit about the Depression. Do you remember the Depression? What was that like for your family? And
well, fortunately, it wasn't bad up in Salina because they had several plants there. They had and they had, they had bums, like we called them.
Yeah.
They would go from town to town, or,
sure.
Jump in a railroad car, and so let's see, what was the point? So the town was fairly successful. They had a big furniture manufacturing plant. It made that table. They made that table.
Is that right?
Yeah, Merceman tables. They were famous. They were fancy tables, and they sold them all over the country. And they had several other plants in the town. So there was no depression there, really.
That's good. And tell me, where did you go to high school?
At the Immaculate Conception High School. It was there was a public school, and then this church took care of all the Catholics in the town.
Sure. And what are your memories of World War II before you enlisted? Do you remember hearing about it a lot? Would you follow it in the papers and the radio?
Oh yeah, I remember the Sunday I was in a neighbor's house when the word came from that
Pearl Harbor?
Pearl Harbor had happened,
Is that right?
And I followed it very closely. Let's see, I was 15 at that time.
Yeah.
And so
were a lot of men getting drafted or enlisting from Salina?
Oh yeah. We lost 3 men, I know, in the war. 3 men. In fact, I think they were all graduates of this school I went to. And but you saw people on leave, but that's all you saw. I did a lot of hitchhiking, and I used to hitchhike down to the Reds game.
Would you really?
Yeah.
Down Crosley Field?
Yeah. And when I got out, I would go down on the what's that parkway downtown?
Central Parkway.
And it used to be a parkway in the middle of the street.
Oh, I know that.
And at night, the bums would go out there and roll their shoes in a newspaper and sleep. Well, when I got out of Crosley Field, I'd walk over to Central Park and roll my shoes up in a newspaper and sleep there.
Were you really?
And then hitchhike back the next morning. And I saw quite a few Reds.
You saw some. Weren't your parents worried about you?
No, I came down and went to what's that place on the river? The big park,
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I can't think of it. Anyway, I'd hitchhike down to the river, and then there was a big boat, one of those big, large steamers, and they'd go out to Coney Island. And 11 o'clock, the last boat went back, and then I'd walk up to.
Wow.
Up to.
What would you do for food?
I had money to could buy stuff at the park, you know.
That's Coney Island?
Coney Island, yeah. So, you know, I'd have something in the morning, you know.
What was Coney Island like back then?
Oh, it was a bit big. It was popular, you know. It had just about everything it had later on, you know. There was rides and the pool and dance floor.
Who would you go down with, by yourself?
Yeah, I went down by myself. Yeah.
Wow, you're adventuresome.
So, after the war, I hitchhiked to New York City a couple times to see my brother, who was settled in Brooklyn after the war.
Wow.
And I started a hitchhike out to the West Coast to see my other brother, but I only got to Oklahoma, and then they forbid all hitchhiking. Boy, they're really strict in this one town in Oklahoma. So I turned around and went back up to Chicago to visit a priest that I had known at high school. And I hitchhiked to Chicago several times.
Wow.
Had
neat.
Friends there. So,
what an adventure. What was Cincinnati like back then? Downtown Cincinnati.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, you know, I guess I went down through the square. But yeah, you just walk down to the river and got on the boat.
Neat.
So that's all I saw of Cincinnati.
Sure.
Really.
Mr. Bauer, tell us then about your enlistment. Why did you enlist? What was that like? Where did you go for that?
Yeah, well, my brother had enlisted 2 years before in the Navy, so he liked it, and I enlisted in May of 1944, but then I graduated in June and immediately went up to Great Lakes, where most of the Midwest states provided. It was a big place.
What did you do up there?
Well,
at Great Lakes.
You simply listen to the people talk, and you march. We learned to march with a rifle on our shoulders, and
you learned to shoot.
Yeah, that's right. We shot a couple times, and but there wasn't. We didn't really go on a boat, you know, a ship. It was only 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
They wanted to get you out right away. So then they tested people, and the test showed that I could handle something a little higher, you know, or than just swab decks, you know. So I got to go to radio school at Northwestern University, right on Lake Michigan.
Nice.
So we had we were on at a former classroom, 2-floor classroom building, right on Lake Michigan.
And you lived in the dorms right there?
Yeah, we lived in dorms, and we got to go down to Evanston, Illinois, which was not too far away, and saw some girls, you know. We'd go to a USO and dance with the girls if you could dance.
Oh, fun.
And you know, that was just 6 weeks.
That was 6 weeks also?
No, I'm sorry. That was until December, and I graduated from radio school.
That was 4 or 5 months?
It was 5 months, I think, the training.
And what was that training like? What was the equipment?
Well, you learned to type. That's where I learned to type. You had to type because there's a message came over through earplugs or ear muffs. You typed the message, you know, or if the captain gave you a message to send yourself, well, you typed it into the let's see, how did we send? No, we sent messages. Yeah, that's right. We sent with our fingers. Yeah.
So and, come over the order. You'd hear words in your ears. You type it.
No, we'd hear code.
Oh, you heard code.
Everything was code. Yeah. You didn't want the Japanese to pick up the message.
So was it a bunch of beeps?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
You know, U was da-da-da, A was da-da. You know, a short one and a long one.
Oh wow.
Everything was short and long. You know, O was da-da-da, and so on. Every letter had a.
Wow. So you just would hear the letter. You'd have to type it.
Yeah, I would type the message.
Woo!
Oh,
thank you. Well, that is interesting.
So yeah, it was interesting. And
that sounds hard.
It was. I mean,
pretty smart.
We listened.
It is. It's really sharp.
We listened 24 hours a day. You know, so you had sometimes you were on from like. Let's see, what was it? 5 o'clock in the morning till 5 hours. The shift from middle of the night to 7 in the morning. That'd be 1 o'clock, 1 to 7. Yeah, it was 5 hours. The other ones were 4 hours, I think.
What would you be listening to?
There was at first when you were in between Honolulu and San Francisco, or from California, you would listen to the San Francisco station. It broadcast all ships in the Pacific out to the area of the Hawaiian Islands. And then in the Hawaiian Islands, at that point, of course, we didn't, we had a station we had a station in the Philippines. At that point, they had taken over most of the Philippines, and Manila was our station. They broadcast to everything from Honolulu to the Philippines.
Oh, I see. And that was all in code. They broadcast.
Yeah. They.
Okay.
That's how you got your messages.
So, Mr. Bauer, what was the food like in basic training and at Northwestern and stuff like that? Do you remember all that?
Well, it was edible. I mean, but it was pretty simple. I know we went to the we'd get into town and we'd buy plenty of candy bars to take back to the
back to your room and your dorm. What was the mood like then in basic and at Northwestern? Were people excited? Were they scared?
No, it was very quiet. We got some instructions on how to handle certain things, and basically obey the officer, or the sergeant, or not sergeant, but let's see, what do we call them?
What do you call in the Navy?
Third class.
Ensign?
The ensign was the basic, the lowest officer.
Oh.
Then you went to lieutenant, major. Not major. Well, I forget now what it was. But boy, I've forgotten. It was all right. Well, there was radio man first class, radio man second class, and third class, first class, second class. Yeah, that's what you were. You were, radio man or somebody who operated the engines, or a guy that cleaned the deck, and then the officers. Most of the rest of them were officers.
And Mr. Bauer, so where did you go, and what happened when you graduated from radio school at Northwestern? Then where did you go?
We went to San Pedro, California. That's where our ship was. And we we were there about a month, I think, and we took our. There's a term they use for testing the ship, seeing if everything runs all right.
Mm-hmm.
I can't.
And that was the USS Elkhart?
Yes.
And that was a new ship?
Yeah, brand new, built in California by a guy who built hundreds and hundreds of ships. I forget his name, but he was a tremendous organizer, I guess. Anyway, we took our shakedown, that is, test of the plane down to San Diego and back to Los Angeles. Then on it was Easter Sunday of 45. We took off from San Pedro.
Wow.
And
took off to where?
To Honolulu. We stopped there, picked up some troops there, and then I think we went to the
what was the ship like, Mr. Bauer? Did you...
Well, it was, you slept in a it was, there were decks,
Yeah.
And below deck was the, where you slept, and you just had there were, what do they call it?
Just like a hammock?
Hammock, yeah. There were 4 hammocks, one on top.
Were there really?
Yeah, you had 4 in a row. And we were in the front of the ship, and boy, oh boy, you get a little storm, rough weather, and boom, boom, boom. That front of the ship would hit the wave, and that would keep you awake for quite a while. And then we, get up and
what were your duties on that ship at that time?
Basically, radio.
You did radio operation?
Yeah, we sat at a typewriter and put our hearing aids on, or what? I can't think of the name.
Earphones.
Earphones, yeah, on and copied the code. It was all in code. Everything was in code.
And that was being broadcast from San Francisco.
San Francisco, yeah.
And what were those, like instructions for the ship or what to do?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you copied everything, and this was to every ship. This included. So, you might sit there for 2 days or a week, and until NKOQ would come in. That was our call sign for our ship, and boy, then you'd wake up, and you'd copy that message too, or you'd make sure you got everything on that message.
And what would be a typical message? What would they say? Do you remember any of those messages?
Coming back from Hawaii, we got a call. Hey, so and so, this ship has got a woman who has got appendicitis, and no doctor on the ship. So he's right here, and you're right there. Go over there and take her over. And
pick her up.
And get your doctor to work. We had a doctor on the ship because it had so many people there. So we went over, moved over toward that ship, picked up the woman, and took her into San Francisco.
Wow.
And but we would, you didn't get too many messages because you would get your instructions in Honolulu. You're going to this island or that island, and then that's all you needed to know.
Okay.
So the next message you got was something that they were messages called all ships.
Okay.
And I can't remember what they were, but it pertained to everybody. So, but then when you got to Hawaii, you went on to, at that time, Manila.
Mm-hmm.
The base where all the ships west of Hawaii would get messages.
Okay.
So, it was a pretty boring job because most of the time you just listen to typing out these.
Sure. And then who would read those messages?
Well, you'd if it was, to all ships or to our ship specifically, we'd give it to a guy who was in the radio shack, we called it, and he would take it up to the captain. If the captain was awake, if he wasn't awake, they'd take it up to the guy in charge of the ship at that point.
Did they ever have to change the code?
Yeah, we would. There was a decoder, an officer who supervised the radio shack, and he decoded messages that were for us or for all the ships. So he just, I think that was a typewriter also that he used. So,
did the Japanese ever crack the code, or did you have to change the code you used?
No, I don't think the Japanese ever cracked the general code because we never heard about it. We stuck to that to the end, and the names of the islands that we were supposed to go to were in code too, and they stayed the same code.
Sure.
Right through the war, as far as I know, because we visited a number of islands several times, and they didn't change.
Sure.
So we didn't know anything. We just copied the message.
So you picked up the troops in Honolulu.
Yeah.
And did you get to go off the ship and do anything there?
Yeah, we had a day or two in Honolulu. Yeah, that was.
What was that like?
Well, that was like heaven compared to some of the other places we've been. I mean, the Navy was running the island, you might say, although there was some Army people there. But we got to see some of the wrecked ships, ships that were destroyed or wrecked at
Pearl
Harbor. And but that was about it. You got out to one of the Japanese islands that we had taken over, and there was nothing there to go to. There was one island. It was a group. It was a place where the ships went, but it was surrounded by rocks, and it was called Ulithi, and it was so big. This area within these rocks that they said that they could get the whole United States Navy in that harbor. Wow. And when we went there, we saw hundreds of ships there. Just amazing. And they had islands. One island where the guys on the ship could get off for a few hours, just to get on. Have a couple beers.
Sure.
And we just, let's see, I've got
Did you ever get seasick?
No, never got seasick.
What was the chow like? What was the chow like on the ship?
Well, it was pretty good at first because you had some stuff that was fresh, But after a few days, it got pretty boring. You had mashed potatoes that were, they were, they were grain, small grain, and you had to have pretty tasteless, and not any rare or fresh fruit or vegetables. But so it was pretty routine. But it was.
What would you do if you weren't sleeping or at the radio? What would you be doing for fun?
let's see. I guess we would,
Play cards or games? Or?
Yeah, we could play cards. They had, well, in the chow, the place where we ate, they cleaned the tables off, and you could go down there and play cards, or what else? There was another game that the Navy would like to play, and I can't think of it now.
Another card game?
Now it's something. I can't think of it. Anyway, you just walk around or find a corner and nobody would bother you and sit there, you know, or gas with people, or you go to a place where the guns were. You know, they had guns to guard against submarines if they showed their way or ship. You know.
Did any submarines ever attack your ship?
No, we never did get close. We were worried one time. We went from way south all the way up to Saipan, I think it was, and we went with 7 or 8 other ships, and we had a small carrier with us to guard against subs. And about half a day out, the carrier had a plane crash on the deck, and they couldn't use the deck, so they went back to the island we had left, and we went on, and we had ammunition in our hold. You know, we didn't have troops, and we were a little worried there that we were going to get blown up. You know, the Japanese still had a good number of submarines. In fact, that was just about the time that the Indianapolis was sunk by a submarine. We were going north, and the Indianapolis was going west to Manila, and we were going right. We passed the path of the Indianapolis, but we didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
And of course, they lost an awful lot of people on that.
Yeah. So, Mr. Bauer, then after you left Honolulu, you went to Manila?
No, let me look at this thing.
Sure.
We hit so many places.
Hit a lot of islands?
Yeah, we, I think we took a bunch of troops out to Saipan that time. Saipan was in the Marianas.
Okay.
That was one of the first group of islands that the United States took over.
So what did the USS Elkhart do? Was it a troop transport?
Yeah, we just transported Army or Marine troops all over the place. I mean, we had 20 different, not different islands, but we had hit them 20 times, you know.
Sure. How many troops could... I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah, we could take ordinarily about 800 or 900 troops, depending on how much their equipment they had to take with them. And otherwise, we could use the places for sleeping, too. But, yeah, we had ordinarily 8 to 900 troops. It was a small APA, they call them, attack personnel. APA, I can't think of it.
Yeah.
And they, so we, we hit, Saipan twice, Tinian twice. Tinian was the island from which the atomic bombers took off.
Did not know that.
It was one airport. There was nothing else except bombers on there. And we took some Navy or some Air Force people over there, I guess, or something. I don't know. Anyway, we got to go on the shore, and if a plane needed some work, they would have to do the work right there, and they couldn't fly, you know. Well, if we could walk around this island, and if we'd see a plane that they were working on, or just nobody was working on, we'd say, hey, you ready? You going to make a test flight, you know? And we've two of us found a plane, and they said, yeah, jump in. So we got a flight in a B-29, and they were big, you know. They were impressive. That was a thrill of mine for the whole trip.
So you flew around the island in B-29?
Yeah, B-29. And,
neat.
So we got ashore in Saipan too. That was where there was a real big battle with the Japanese. The Japanese were in forests and caves and so on. It was a tough battle.
Were you
we never
witnessed to any battles?
No, we didn't witness any battles. We got in the one battle that we got close to was Okinawa. We hit Okinawa twice, and we brought troops to relieve some of the troops that had been fighting there for months. And there was no harbor at Okinawa, so the planes, or the ships, would go along the side of the island. This was the side toward Asia, and just keep moving, you know, to avoid the kamikaze planes, the suicide planes that the Japanese were then sending over anywhere they could get them. But they were hitting Okinawa mostly because that was the closest one to Japan, and the battle was still going on Okinawa. So we never got ashore in Okinawa, but they would send these planes over at night mostly, and if there was a shift of wind or something, and it exposed a ship to the air, you know, down he went and crashed on the deck, you know. And if it was a small ship, or if you had two or three of them hit, you know, at the same time, or that ship sank. And we were in our radio room, the night shift, you know, and you could listen to these messages from the ships, you know. We got it, you know, in the aft end or the back end. You know,
oh, really?
And we need help, or you know, we're still going, so we'll head for a safe spot. You know, they could go up to the border of Okinawa, the land, but there was no facilities there for repair or anything like that. So that was our one battle. That was the one battle we actually participated in.
Wow! Did you see some kamikaze planes?
No, because at night they would make smoke. All the ships would create smoke in there with boilers, and the smoke would rise above. And like I say, if there was a strong wind at times, it would move the smoke away and expose a ship. And then if the kamikazes were close by, they could try to...
Did your ship have to do that too? Make smoke?
Yeah, and we were moving too, you know. So it was... we would, you know, get the word over the radio that so-and-so was sunk, you know. We'd get their code number, and we'd look it up and see which ship was hit or which one sank. And
It was probably terrifying, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, you know, you just, you couldn't worry too much because there wasn't anything you could do about it. You know, you just hoped that you didn't appear in the open, you know.
Yeah.
And they lost, the Navy lost more men at Okinawa than the Army or the Marines.
Really?
Yeah, they sank so many ships there.
Wow.
That their death casualties were the most.
Wow. So ships were still being sunk when you were at Okinawa?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we like I say, we hit it twice. Let's see, where were we when the war was over? I can't remember.
Did you see any Japanese planes ever?
No, never did. They wouldn't come over in the day because they would be shot down.
Sure.
There were destroyers and destroyer escorts during the day that would go all around well, at night too. They would surround the transports and the other ships, and they would try to knock down the fighters, the Japanese kamikaze, and they would get the most, have the most hits too. They lost the most sailors, the destroyers and the destroyer escorts. But
did you hear any guns firing ever or anything?
no, we couldn't. Of course, you were inside you know, several levels of steel, and you couldn't hear anything.
And what did you say you were, tell us again about, you went to Mass one day, you were on an island, and...
Oh, well, it was on, if you were, let's say, some of the bigger ships, I think, maybe all of them, I don't know, the cruisers and the battleships had priests and ministers, yeah. And if you wanted to go to if they were both sitting there close, you know, well, you could get on a little boat and go over there on the 10 service on Sunday usually. And so this one Sunday I said I'd like to go because this hospital ship was real close to us, and so a bunch of us got in and went over there, and we got up on the deck, and boy, there were all kinds of wounded men lying on stretchers that had been hit the night before, and they didn't have enough room.
Wow.
To operate on all of them at once. You know, they didn't have enough operation rooms, and they were waiting for treatment. They were, I guess, the least dangerous.
Yeah.
The least sick, you know.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a shock, you know, to see these guys who had gotten hit, and you knew that their ship had sunk too. So
yeah.
And so that's the closest we got to the fight, you might say.
That's something.
But that was the last real battle of the Second World War for the United States. And then we stayed over. Most of the ships got to go back, but we stayed over, and we started moving troops from this island to that island, and then we took some troops up to Tokyo and Sasebo, which was a city on the bottom island of the Japanese group.
This is when the war was over?
Yeah, when the war was over. And we went all over. We went down to Well, let's say this: the Russians were helping the Chinese communists to take over part of China, and we got a job, and we went down to Vietnam, which was Indochina at that time, French Indochina, and picked up about 1,000. We had a lot more than we had soldiers, usually over 1,000, Chinese soldiers, and we took them up to the Great Wall of China. There's a town called Tao. It's right on the Great Wall. Well, it wasn't, the Great Wall wasn't right there. We could see it in the distance from there. It was about 10 miles away. And we hit, well, that's right, that was one time we went there. We took a bunch of soldiers there. We took soldiers into Tsingtao, which was a German city, really. It was founded by the Germans before the war. Some of the European countries and the United States went over to help the Chinese, I guess, I'm not sure why now, I've forgotten. But anyway, the Germans founded this place, and there were German stores in there, and you could, if you spoke German, you could, just get along real well.
I didn't know that.
There were a lot of Chinese by then. That they had been there for 20 years, I think. The Germans, yeah.
What were these? So you transported some Chinese troops?
Yeah, up to Tao.
And were those Chinese troops fighting the communists?
Yeah, they were to fight the communists, Chinese, and let's see, we went to the Philippines. Landed a bunch of American troops on Leyte, and I think we came back again and moved some troops. Well, we hit 4 or 5 of the islands, very south. The islands were, what was that first big battle? Where the Americans landed at
Guadalcanal?
Guadalcanal, yeah. We went down to islands around Guadalcanal and Peleliu. Oh, we did. We had.
This was after the war?
Yeah, this was after.
What were those islands like?
Well, this one island, Babelthorpe, yeah. What was that? That was a part of a group of islands. They still had a bunch of Japanese on there, and but they bypassed, and this is what they did. Americans did. They bypassed islands with the troops on, and there were something like 10 or 15,000 Japanese on these islands, and we didn't bomb them or anything. We just relieved the guys who were on their ship, and we left soldiers to make sure the Chinese didn't do anything. I mean, the Japanese didn't do anything. And so they finally surrendered, yeah.
Wow.
So.
And what were the islands? Did you see a lot? Were the islands destroyed? Did you see bombed out islands? Or?
Well, we saw parts of it, yeah, like Babelthorpe, or of course we went to we hit one island close to what was that name?
Guadalcanal?
Guadalcanal, yeah. And there were still some troops there, and you'd hear a gun boom now and then, They hadn't given up yet. So, if they weren't causing any problems, they let them go, figuring that Japan would give in and tell their soldiers to quit fighting.
And he landed in the Philippines?
Yes.
Well, what was that like?
Oh, we hit Manila twice, and Manila was a mess. I mean, it looked like flat. The part we got to, everything had been flattened. With shelling, first from the Japanese, and then maybe from the United States. I'm not sure. My brother landed. He was on a destroyer. He landed in went into a big, or at that time it was a small place north of Manila, and the Japanese came along with it. The kamikaze fighters, and one of them hit his ship, and it came real close to him. They knocked off some extensions, poles off the ship, and then I don't know whether the plane went in the water or not. But
did you get to see your brother during the war at all?
No, I never saw him until after the war, and I hitchhiked to Brooklyn, where he was. He married a gal from Brooklyn. They met there. And
what was it like when you heard that Japan surrendered?
Oh boy, we wanted to celebrate, but we couldn't. But in fact, I'm not sure. I think we were at. I think we were at that big place where they could take the whole trip.
That you were talking about? Yeah, that big harbor?
Yeah. I think that's where we were, because we hit there several times. Well, I mean, we just kept moving. We never sat still for more than
just moving troops all over the place.
Yeah, a couple days.
So was there celebration then when you heard they surrendered? Is there fireworks and beer and stuff?
No, we couldn't get close to that island. It was just a one island, in a huge space. And the officers had an island too, and they had a big building. We had to go get 3 beers and sit out on the sand and in the sun. So we celebrated. And we even got to Korea twice. Yeah.
You did?
We took troops into Korea.
What was that? What were the troops doing there?
Well, they. I think the Chinese must have infiltrated North Korea. I'm not sure, but anyway, we landed at a big harbor there, the biggest harbor. I can't think of the name.
Right.
And we went into a place for Navy people, where you could get beer, cold beer, Well, the beer was on the first floor of this building, and we had to sit on the tables on the second floor, and there was no heat on the second floor, and this was winter, so you didn't drink too much beer. That was the place. But
Korea got cold.
Yeah, we took a couple groups of troops to Korea.
American troops?
Yeah, we were all over.
Wow.
I know we hit Tsingtao twice, and Japan 2 or 3 times.
Did you get to go into Japan? Get to walk on it, land on it?
Yeah, we got to go in at that little place. That little place, or the big place on the bottom island.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a wreck. I mean, it was a lot of debris and so on from bombings.
Did you get to meet any Japanese or Japanese people or Japanese POWs?
No, they didn't encourage contact with them. At least they didn't encourage us. You know, there were probably people who were maybe had a little bit of the language.
Sure. Did you have any POWs on your ships? On your ship?
No, we never took prisoners.
And how about black? Did you serve with black people? Were there?
Yeah, they. But of course, they were really restricted. The only black men on our ship were in the what do we call it? The kitchen. Let's say.
Is that right?
Yeah. We didn't call it the kitchen. I forget.
The galley.
Galley. Yeah, the galley. That was the only.
No, thank you. No, thanks.
We had, I think, 3 or 4 black.
Did you make some good friends? Keep in touch with any of those people from your Navy days?
Yeah, I visited a few of them, and one of them came to live in. Became a chiropractor and lived in my hometown. And,
Salina.
I got to see him several times when I went up to my hometown.
Neat.
And one of the guys lives out in the Indian Hills right now, one of the radio men.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a doctor.
From the Elkhart?
Yeah.
What's his last name?
My memory is...
Oh, that's all right. You're doing great.
Last year is...
Oh, no, you're doing great.
Oh.
That's okay. Any other memories you want to tell us or relate to us about your Navy days? Any other people stand out, or events, or anything like that you can think of?
Yeah. Offhand, no. I mean, this little island that we went to take some soldiers out to replace the Marines, that was the island where Ernie Pyle was killed. Yeah. I can't think of the name. I had it memorized. But he was, the most popular columnist at that time.
Yeah. I heard of him.
And he was killed by Japanese. So, then we got back to Honolulu. We had a couple days in the Philippines, at Honolulu, which was fun.
So, what was it like when you were mustered out? What was it like coming home? Was there a big party for you or anything like that?
No. This was a year and a half after the war was over, so they had celebrated enough, I think, and talked to the family and your good friends, your people in your class, and but
was your family happy to see you?
Yeah, they were glad I got back. But I went to, I started college that year at, oh boy, here we go with this memory. A little Catholic school over in western Indiana, about 80 miles south of Chicago. St. Thomas or St. Something.
You went to college there, huh?
Yeah, I started there.
You started there?
Yeah. But then I got a wild thought. I read something called part of something called The Imitation of Christ.
Oh.
And I just, I said, I want to go down to Gethsemane. You know where Gethsemane?
Sure, I've been there several times.
Have you?
Yeah, the Trappist monastery, yeah.
So they tried to talk me out of it, but I took off, went down to Gethsemane. I tried it twice, but I couldn't take the quiet and,
wow.
and you couldn't talk most of the time, and only to a few people. And the second time I stayed there 6 months, and I worked for Thomas
Merton?
Merton, yeah.
You're kidding.
Yeah, I typed, and he was in the office, and he would tell me what to write. He got a lot of mail from outside, and I was his secretary for several, I guess a month maybe.
That's fascinating.
I just couldn't take it. The silence and.
What kind of guy was Thomas Merton?
Oh, he was a talky guy. He liked to talk. I mean, you can't talk down there really unless you have to. But in the office, and he was getting a lot of mail from people that had read his book. And
the 7-Story Mountain.
Yeah, the 7-Story Mountain.
Wow.
And he was kind of a character. And so then I came back to Cincinnati because I had left Cincinnati. I had a spiritual director at the seminary over in Norwood, and so I went down to Xavier and signed up for night school, and the guy, Father, I might have known him. He was an assistant to the president for a while. He said, "Well, go on to Xavier. You got the GI Bill." So I signed up at Xavier that January of 51, I think. 49, January 49, I started Xavier, and finished in 51, graduated in 51.
What was your major?
English.
Were you going with a lot of veterans?
Oh yeah, there was. We lived in a barracks, an army barracks. They had about 4 long barracks down there, right where they started, right where the chapel is. They went down.
Yeah, I went there in 1980, and there were still some of those there. One was called like North Hall.
Yeah, well, that was the the South Hall was the where they put the plays on. Yeah, North Hall. Yeah, I guess there was.
It was just a long building, kind of like on the hill.
Yeah. They were on the hill. They're going down
to Victory Parkway.
No, it went down the road that goes past the
chapel.
Chapel now. Yeah,
so you stayed you lived in the dorms there, the barracks?
For about two semesters, then I had to get out. There wasn't any studying done. We played cards and, what have you.
Talk stories.
Yeah.
Go to the football games.
Yeah. And I was a member of the Mask Society. In fact, I was the chairman at my last year. I was I don't know what they call them, chairman or something, of the Mask Society.
What was that society?
They put on plays in South Hall. South Hall was probably still there when you were there, wasn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had that's where they put on plays. Half of it was eating. They had stuff you could eat, snacks mostly. The other half was the play. in the playhouse. You know?
Sure.
And I was on the newspaper too. I wrote on the.
Oh yeah, the Xavier News or the Newswire or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Well, very good. Well, okay, this is we're done with the interview, and we'd like to thank Mr. Paul Bauer for this time, and particularly though, we'd like to thank him and his wife for their hospitality this morning, and also we'd like to thank Mr. Bauer for his service to this country. We thank you for enlisting and volunteering and helping in the war effort, World War II. And it has been a pleasure to have met you today. And again, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any last words, Mr. Bauer?
No, that's enough.
Are you glad you did it?
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, we're glad you did it too. Thanks again.